Hey, welcome back to Working Class Customs YouTube channel, and welcome back to Stable B. Tonight we're back with the CBR 600 F4i once again. I did find out it's a 2003. I don't know if I mentioned that in part one, but this is gonna be part two. So if you haven't seen part one, go check it out. We got a link up here. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I suggest you check out part one so you know what's going on here. I don't want to back explain too much. I'm working on this CBR 600 F4i. Tonight we're gonna continue our teardown, start a little bit of cleanup, and parts 3 through who knows how far will be us putting everything back together. I already got some parts. I'll go through those a little bit tonight, but that's where we're at. So go check out part one. Stay tuned for part two. And as always, please subscribe to the channel. Click the link down below. Subscribe button if you're liking the content. If not liking the content, as always, that's fine. We understand. This is the internet. There's things we like. There's other things we don't. Whatever it is for you, that's fine. If you are liking the content, you click subscribe already. Make sure you throw a like on the video. Leave me some comments as we're going. I don't know a whole lot about this bike. That's kind of part of the reason why I'm taking this on. So your comments can help me. My videos can help you. We'll all help each other. Build a nice little community. That's what we're here for. So stick around. Let's get a little bit more of this teardown done and see if we can get this bike cleaned up and ready for the road again. All right, so we ended our teardown. Got everything. Oh, we have all our fairings over here. We found out that some of the wiring issues were probably related to this mess of bundled wires and use of twisty boys. Twisty cone, is there an official name for those? I don't really know. You let me know in the comments. That's air filter. I think we might have pulled that off last time. It's just an air filter. We're gonna go ahead and pull this air box off tonight. Be a few screws down here. I probably won't show you guys that, but if we look close, can you see around the light? Big old Phillips heads. Get that guy there, another two right there, another one on the end, and then there's some on the top, up above there. We'll get that airbox pulled off and see what it looks like underneath. Wiring is kind of one of what I've seen to be the biggest issues with this bike. So that's what we're gonna try and clean up. This obviously has to go. So I ordered a new wiring harness. Well, I say new. The one for back here is not new, but it'll connect in here, come all the way back. All that'll be brand new. We've got a new tail over in a box. I'll show you guys all the parts in a second we got. Actually, real quick, we'll just flash on them. I haven't opened any of them up yet. We got a new tail, rear wiring harness, front wiring harness, some fairing fasteners, and a fuel pump assembly. Part 3, we'll get into putting all the parts on the bike. Get a whole new assembly there. The new wiring harness back here, a whole new wiring harness up here on the front. This is just the light harness, nothing too crazy, but I just found that these turn signal wires were not ideal, and I'm willing to bet that the aftermarket ones that we got, also got new turn signals, are gonna be plug and play. So I figured, you know, instead of messing with whatever this is, I found there was a headlight that wasn't even plugged in. So I'm like, well, if he had all these lighting issues, let's just go back to the base of the problem. Unclip, got a brand new one. That's gonna be off Babbitt's. Our fuel pump assembly is off Babbitt's. Like I said, I'll get more into all those parts on the next episode after we do the teardown and cleanup. So today we're just gonna, you know, try and get rid of some of this dust and whatnot, and then see what else is under here. I digress. What I was getting into, that not only lights, there are some other random things that I have found not plugged in. Our fuel pump wire. Sorry, I'm trying to find it. I always lose it, it's so small. Down here, this guy, I don't know if you can even see it. Anyway, that guy, 3-prong, doesn't have its ground on it anymore. That's what this is supposed to be. And then that was just clipped onto here. And then these two still went into the 3-prong. So you can see that's a 3-prong. If we look down in there, you can see that piece of copper still in there, which meant that there was a wire in there. After a little bit of research, I found out that, well, not even research, just looking around, some guy had somehow pulled the wire out of that 3-prong harness on the bike side. So we're gonna get that cleaned up too, but first we gotta get this air box off. So I'll go ahead and pull that off camera real quick and then show you guys what it looks like underneath. All right, so I got all the screws pulled out real quick. Just wanna mention, there's also this plug here. Yeah, I don't even know what that's for. I'm gonna assume some sort of air sensor. There's a hole down in there that you can see. It looks like it's gonna go to this little hose, which is gonna head over to somewhere. I'm not sure, don't know a whole lot about this bike, but if you're pulling a box off, you're working on one of these bikes, it's the screws and then also this plug, this little hose is gonna need to come off. So just wanna mention that real quick. Get those pulled. You guys have no idea how difficult this is, holding a camera and trying to pull a plug. They're hard enough on their own. Anyway, get those pulled off and then we'll have the airbox off. Just wanted to show that real quick. Airbox, we'll give this filter a good little blowout. It looks pretty clean, to be honest. I'll shine a light through there later, see how clean it actually is, but it doesn't look too bad, so we'll just blow it out. Make sure we clean out the bottom of the box. Luckily, if stuff is stuck down here in your box, this is your filter. There's your actual air intake for the bike. So if it's in there, that's okay. Not a big deal. Obviously, I'm putting this all back together as nice as I can. So we'll make sure everything's nice and cleaned up. But if you have stuff under your air filter, go ahead and clean it out. It's not like it's dangerous being in there. That's the purpose of the air filter. Unless your air filter somehow gets a hole blown in it, you're not gonna have a problem. But if your air filter gets a hole blown in it, you'll probably have other issues than having a bug stuck in your box. That's the whole point of the filter. Anyway, over here, did just want to mention our videos are edited, but if you've seen my other videos and whatnot, yeah, you should know by now I try not to hide anything from you guys. I'm not here to say, once again, I'm not a certified mechanic, so I'm not here to claim that I know something that you don't or that I don't make mistakes. I make mistakes. I want you guys to be able to learn from my mistakes, so don't edit mistakes and things like that out of my videos. If I'm doing it for the first time, you're gonna see it for the first time. If I make a mistake and mess something up completely, you're gonna see that and I'm gonna show you, or at least tell you about it. Sometimes I might not show you because get upset when I mess things up, but that's okay. Anyway, so whole point of all that was we're looking at the engine for the first time here together, you and I. It's actually not as bad as I thought it was gonna be. For some reason in my head, there were gonna be a bunch of wires down here just kind of like chilling, like everything else we've seen. I'm just gonna keep going back to this. This will be gone soon, don't worry. Please, if you're doing anything on your bike, either buy a plug and play or learn how to build a wiring harness and do it correctly. I don't like to see this, especially because most of these were just like, had those caps on the end and then a little bit of tape. They didn't even go anywhere. If you don't need a wire in there, you can just pull it out or just buy a plug and play item or put an actual cap on, I don't know. Yeah, that's that. Things I noticed, this plug was not plugged in. That's gonna go into the bottom of the air box. There should be a sensor in there. I don't know if that's air temperature, air flow, I'm not sure exactly, but it's gotta be plugged in. I had a similar problem with this bike over here. When I got it back from the shop, they had forgot to plug it in and did throw a code on it. We'll make sure that gets plugged back in. We'll check the sensor before we do that because there's a contraption known as a, I don't even know, some sort of cap and a hose clamp. So we'll take a look at that, see if that sensor needs replaced or what's going on with it. We'll get that taken care of. And then beyond that, tonight's just gonna be me kind of cleaning up this engine because it doesn't look too bad. We already kind of checked the throttle in the last video, but it does in fact look like the throttle is opening up like it should, so that's good. So I'm gonna get my air gun out and just kind of start blowing this stuff away, getting that all cleaned up and nice. We can start installing new parts and get this all put back together. All right, first thing I'm gonna do, take my air hose and just kind of blow off. There's got a lot of cobwebs, dust, whatever else we might have in here. So I'm just gonna take my air hose and honestly, like front to back this thing and just kind of blow everything out. Try and knock everything a little bit loose, whatever. Then I got this rag down here because they're gonna throw some degreaser. Eventually, we'll move that for now. Degrease the top of the engine, try and get that looking a little bit nicer before we put that air box back on. And then I gotta do something about this wiring harness with where the fuel pump connected and everything else. We'll get working on that after we get everything kind of at least a little bit cleaned up. I'm not here to do a full detail on this bike. I just, 2003, who knows the last time this stuff came off. It's nice to get in there and kind of get all the dust and whatever debris out of there before you go ride it again. Also, I will be washing this bike after we get it put all back together. This is just to kind of clean up our workspace, if you will. One quick thing I will say about using air. If you're gonna use air, especially on an older bike, I just figured I'd throw this out there. I was just thinking about it while I was doing it. I only have my air pressure like 20 to 30 pounds. If you have a bigger air compressor or you're thinking about doing something like that, you're like, hey, Easton, that's a good idea. Blow some of the dust out, knock everything a little bit loose. Just don't turn your air pressure up too high. You might break some things. I don't know if that's actually possible, but I just figured it's something I would mention. Air pressure at a small, can almost be like a freaking saw blade if you have too much pressure. I don't think a home compressor could do that, but better to stay on the safe side, just have a little nice low pressure air. We're really just like blowing on it. I just don't want to sit here and all the dust out all day long. Anyway, now we're gonna throw some degreaser on this thing, get that engine, on the top of the engine kind of cleaned up, and we'll start looking at the wiring harness and see what we can do about it. Hopefully it's a pretty good view for you guys. First thing I'm gonna do, just throw that rag over our intakes, just because I don't want too much degreaser getting in there. I could tape it up. I could do that. I'm not going to because I'm not gonna be spraying anything too crazy. I just have a good old, see if you can see it. It used to say D grease. I just use a little bit of WD-40 degrease compound and a nice spray bottle. That way it's refillable, nice and easy to use. So I'm just gonna lightly spray the top of the engine, really just try and get some of this stuff off of here. Probably have to let it sit and soak for a little bit, so bear with me there, but just a little bit. And I'm gonna also kind of spray the frame and the side of the engine so that I can start to kind of clean that up. Like I said, when we were blowing everything off, I will be doing a full wash on this bike before we give it back to the owner. That will help clean this stuff up. In the meantime, we want to get this inside parts of the bike nice and cleaned up. Like I said, not too worried about taping off the intakes because one, I'm here. It's not like I'm spraying from way far out. Two, it's a very low pressure bottle, so none of it's gonna get in there anyway. Not really too worried about it. Then we'll just start getting after it with a rag. So hopefully you guys like the time-lapse type stuff because that's kind of what a lot of tonight's gonna be. I don't know exactly how long this video will actually turn out being, but I don't think and talk well. Point proven. I can't talk and think very well while I'm actively doing something. So cleaning doesn't take up much mind space, but I don't want to be sitting here just kind of mumbling at you guys. I want to be quiet so I don't say something stupid. So once again, I'm not detailing this bike, so I'm not going to go through, and if I really wanted to do that, I would pull the engine out, I would clean up the entire wiring harness, I would do all those types of things. Don't necessarily have the time to do that. I'm doing a favor for a buddy of mine, getting this bike running again, getting her ready for the road for him. He's a relatively new rider, so we want to make sure everything's nice and taken care of, but we're not doing a full engine rebuild or anything like that. So I'm just trying to make sure that everything on the inside of this bike is relatively cleaned off. So if you see some dust, please leave a comment down below and I will go clean it up before we finish off this rebuild. But also keep in mind, this is not meant to be a perfect job. It's just meant to get that kind of top layer or two off of here before we give it back to him, since it has probably been 20 years of buildup. If this was an air-cooled bike, I would talk to you about how important it is that you keep your engine clean so that the air fins have enough room to breathe and can actually give the bike the cooling it deserves and blah, 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 blah. But it's not. It's liquid cooled. So that's not even an argument. So if you're thinking about making that argument, just don't even worry about it. Also, if someone in the comments could please let me know that it either has this bike or knows a lot about these bikes. I know we get some smart people out there. Please let me know. On the back of the fuel rail, there's a line with a little, like, what looked like a filter to me at first. I think it's a valve now. I'm pretty sure it's a relief valve, pressure relief valve for the fuel rail, but it went back into the tank. That was the line we took off in the last part. Once again, if you haven't seen part one, please go check it out. But I thought it was a fuel filter last week, and upon further inspection tonight, it makes more sense if it's a pressure relief for that fuel line. But I don't know if that's a thing on motorcycles. Don't know a whole lot about this bike. Never even thought about that. I know, like, things that have a pressurized fuel system with a high pressure fuel pump will have those. I don't know if that's a thing and I'm just making it up. So please let me know in the comments what that might be. Or if you need more info to figure it out, let me know. I'll gladly get it for you. And to finish everything up real quick, go ahead and re-blow with air, whatever little bits of dust and fluid might still be in there. I have to sweep the shop. Hopefully that looks a little better. I think it does. Yeah, a little bit of degrease, some toothbrush work, a little bit of rag work, and some air goes a long way. Also cleaned up. I got stuff all over here. Also cleaned up the sides a little bit, nothing too crazy. Like I said, we're still gonna do a wash on this. Holy cow, look at that. Would you guys know it? If I had looked a little bit closer, it says right there in big bold letters, that's a 2003. Insane. Anyway, there's more duct tape. I have to get that figured out. It's a good time. Lots of wiring issues with this guy today. Anyway, looks a little bit nicer. Like I said, nothing too crazy. Still gonna do a wash afterward. I know I've said that 5 times, but that's how we're looking. Everything looks a little bit nicer to work with, a little bit less dust, dirt, grime, everything else. Still an old bike. So next thing we're gonna do, go ahead and pull up the spark plugs and check them. I'll show you guys those, what they look like. That's gonna be pulling these guys off in a second, and then getting a wrench down in there and pulling the spark plug out, and we'll check and make sure that none of them look too gummed up. I hope there's a spark plug in there. There it is, okay. All right, and I gotta look up real quick what the spark plug size is. I don't know, that's the great thing. Like I said, I'm not trying to hide anything. Spark plug socket size, 14 millimeter. Big question now is, what size extension do I want to get down in there? That is like my biggest complaint I have about working on a bike. is that because the engine is crammed in here, there's not like as much room as you might think. Also a spark plug socket. And apparently it's not a 14 millimeter. Okay, upon further Googling, 16 millimeter. Honda CBR 600 F4i is in fact 16 millimeter. Heard it here first, gentlemen. Need an extension that's like just barely longer than that. Let's see what else I got. Oh, look at that. I've never used this size extension before. Let me get you guys this focus. Look at that. Yeah. Never had to use one of those. But man, it makes it so nice, so perfect. The two extensions combined. It's a little too small. Space is too tight for anything bigger, I think. Yeah, that makes sense. The biggest question is going to be whether or not we can get it out of there. We need a bendy boy. Not quite loose enough yet. Boom, we got a spark plug. Actually, not too bad. I'll show you guys up close. Oh, hello, in focus, there we go. That is not bad at all. Not even super gummed up or anything. So we'll pull the rest of them real quick, take a look at them. I won't show you all of them, unless there's one that's real bad. And then we'll get them put back in. But that's a good sign. Before I mess things up, I'm gonna look up the torque also. All right, well, the internet says not quite German, but nice and snug. So that's what we'll give it, nice and snug. Oh, get that ratchet out of there. Get the socket out. We'll get that coil back in. Also definitely not used to seeing this kind of cross beam on the frame here. A little interesting. Also looks pretty great. Checked all the spark plugs. Like I said, I'll show you guys the first one. The rest of them looked just as good. Got all the plugs back in, all the coils back on, plugged up. Next thing we're gonna work on is first of our wiring issue, and maybe the biggest, which again, let me go get a flashlight so you guys can actually kind of see what I'm talking about down there. Oh, forgot to put my magnet away. Okay, down there, where the light is. See that plug that's unplugged? That goes to your fuel pump. Yeah, there it is. Behind it, that little wire that's not in focus. Anyway, there you go. Behind it, that little wire comes all the way up here and turns into this guy right here, which we don't really want because I'm pretty sure when I open up the fuel pump box, which we're gonna do here in a second, it's gonna just be a 3-prong connected to the fuel pump. So I gotta get that brought back out of there, connected back into that 3-prong that's there. That guy right there. Get it connected back into the side. That way everything's back to how it should be. So I might have to move a few things out of the way, and I want to kind of pull that whole thing up a little bit. So that way, next time taking the tank off, you don't maybe have that same issue. We'll go ahead and open up that new fuel pump, see what it looks like, and then go from there. Okay, fuel pump. While we're getting this open, I want to go ahead and let you guys know I get a lot of this OEM stuff. Go to Babbitt's. There are several websites you can go to. Babbitt's, there's cycleparts.com or something, Motorsport. They're all super sweet websites because they have the bike schematics out of like the owner's manual and whatnot. Oh, look at that. That's our front light harness. Looks like they put it in the same box. Yeah, so that's, man, that's so sweet. You can see, hopefully you guys can see. Yeah, that's awesome. So that's gonna plug right in there. We might even go ahead and go plug this in real quick. And it's got all our turn signal wires, headlight, like everything. It's perfect. It's OEM. It's exactly what you would expect. It's exactly what's out of the book. That's why I go to those websites. Looks like a fuel pump. You check the box, make sure doesn't have anything else. Nope. That's funny though, they use a USPS box and just flip it upside down. But yeah, Babbitt's, I used them specifically this time because they had the best price on this. Unfortunately, the rear harness that I was talking about earlier, the light harness for the rear, I couldn't find one on any of those websites. They're all just out of stock, so we had to go to eBay for that. But these websites are sweet for OEM stuff. I've used them before and they're great because you get exactly what originally came on the bike. As you can see right here, you have our 2 power plugs and our ground plug, and they all go into the same 3-prong plug. So we've got to at least get that ground connected back up into the 3-prong plug on the bike. That way we can just plug this back in and it'll all be basically OEM again. That's kind of funny. That's bent up a little bit more than it was on the old one. So that's our new fuel pump sending unit and all of that. Little filter in there, the actual pump itself, and the plug situation. It all looks great, and then your fuel line goes in there. That's why that's all plugged up. Once again, Babbitt's does have the best prices, as I've come to find out, but there are a few different websites. I'll have the links to every website that I used down in the description, so you can go check those out. But Babbitt's is a sweet spot. The Suzuki had on the gas tank, there's a bolt that goes in, and it goes in through this like little washer thing. It's like a washer tube almost, and I lost one. I don't even remember why I lost it, but I lost it, and that's what I needed. And I was like, instead of searching all the hardware stores, that's where I found Babbitt's. If you've had a motorcycle and you've done any like extensive maintenance, you're very familiar with that. If you're going through your book and you find, I don't even know where a good, like this guy, right? So right here, this is our rear subframe. It's just a subframe. There's no like front subframe on a bike. So there's our subframe, all the parts and pieces. Babbitt's would have it laid out exactly like that. The same piece numbers probably even. And you could go order literally the bolt or the pack of bolts or this one bracket or whatever it might be. You can order that individually, or you can order it as a whole assembly. Like this fuel pump that we bought obviously came as a whole assembly, but they had the option to get literally every individual part. Like I could just get the pump, I could get the filter, I could get this little tiny hose right here, the 2 hose clamps. You can literally order every individual part that you want or need. Those websites are sweet for that. Definitely go check them out if you're doing something or you break a small individual part, you're not doing something aftermarket. They're great for that. Obviously gonna need to get that ground wire connected back into that harness or that little plug. I do not have the stuff right now to get that done. I can get that done in part 3. So tonight, to finish this up, I'm gonna go ahead and pull this rear harness, get the new one on, and then pull this front harness and get the new one on there also, and then I'll finish this up for part 3. So go grab our brand new nice harness from, again, Babbitt's. Like I said, the other one's from eBay. That's only because we couldn't get a brand new one. So see how the eBay one turns out tonight because I haven't opened it yet. Man, look at that though. Look at how nice and shiny everything is. Beautiful plugs. Everything's gonna be great. And we're gonna come all the way up into here, get this one disconnected. Maybe, hopefully, I'll figure out the easiest, or not even the easiest, but just the way that it disconnects. There it is. Is there one on both sides? Just the one side? All right. A little bit of flathead action in there. Perfect. There's our old one with, like I said, this type of stuff on it. That's why it's going backwards. Very nice. Plugs in perfectly. That's gonna give us our new front harness. Should be able to plug everything in nice and easy that way. And everything should work out great. 2 headlights. We'll see where everything else goes once we get the front fairing back on. Oh, there's high beams. I forgot about high beams. There's high beams. And we'll go do the rear. I personally try and stay away from eBay. Not that I necessarily have an issue with it. These parts specifically are from Rick S. Motorcycle, I guess. Wasn't the cheapest guy on eBay and clearly not quite the cleanest, but you know what? It is complete. And that's what we care about, is a complete harness. We'll get that guy plugged up and then we'll be good to go. Get rid of the mess of stuff that's currently the harness. There's the end. So they do have this one connected up to the battery. Also, trying to have to see if that needs to be like that. Kind of doubting it. Willing to bet that was for some aftermarket stuff. So we'll take a look and see. I'm gonna get this new one put in, but willing to bet not absolutely necessary. And if it is, I'll make sure we'll just disconnect it here. Yeah, it could be. All right, So there's our old one. Hopefully you can see that mess. It was someone's beautiful work of trying to install aftermarket tail wiring. I don't even know. I have a new one, and that is gonna connect back in, so that fuse will stay in there. Gonna send power back. My apologies, it does stay. All right, I'll set that on top for now. We'll get this power connected back up. Now let's get the power at the fuse again. I'm gonna slam this back through in the same spot and reconnect. Get a nice click in there. Get that all routed nicely. So when we get the tail in there later, we'll get this routed up nice. It's not just sitting there too horribly, and I might retape that in there like they had it before. We'll see how it goes with the battery, but I'll show you guys that a little bit closer. So I guess in this bike, let's get a fuse for the rear light system, essentially. There's your power coming straight off the power of the battery. Fuse for it has its own little fuse plug. I did check that. It is in fact still good. Like a little 10 amp. 20 amp, and that connects in. There's a new harness back there. It looks immensely better than the mess that we had. Once we get the new tail opened up, we'll see if that works, and that's gonna finish this up here for tonight. All right, once again, thanks for watching. Thanks for following along with the Honda build. Tonight was just part 2 of kind of tear down, clean up, whatever you want to call it. So we got the cleanup done. Underneath, I just wanted to pull that airbox off and see what the top of the engine looked like. We were able to look at the spark plugs and then get the 2 wiring harnesses, front and rear, replaced. So moving into part 3, we really should kind of get this thing all put back together. So I'll pick up some stuff to get the wiring harness for the fuel pump. Sorry, the plug for the fuel pump kind of extended out, so it's a little easier to get to and back to normal how it should be. We'll get a new fuel pump installed in the tank, get that back on, and then we'll start working on getting a new tail on, slowly get all the fairings back on. That tail is gonna need painted. I wasn't able to find a pre-painted one, but we'll get back more into that. So make sure you come back for part 3. Once again, click subscribe on the channel down below so you can know that there's a part 3. Click the notification bell, throw a like on the video, and you CBR F4i guys in the audience, please, if I'm missing something on this bike or you know something about it or you're just a fanboy, whatever, please let me know down in the comments. I love the feedback, love you guys' comments, so please let me know. Thanks for watching the video. We'll see you guys in part 3.